At the World Economic Forum in Davos, French President Emmanuel Macron has delivered one of his sharpest attacks yet on US President Donald Trump, declaring that Europe will not give in to bullies or submit to what he called the law of the strongest. Macron's unusually scathing rebuke follows Trump's threat to impose 200% tariffs on French wines and champagne, and his decision to publish private diplomatic messages, actions Europe now brands as open coercion over Greenland.
We have to fix the war in Ukraine. We have to help the Ukrainians to resist and find a sustainable peace. We have to fix prosperity in democracies. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have tariffs and be divided, and even to threaten now with additional tariffs. We can use the crazy thing is that we can be put in a situation to use the anti-coercion mechanism for the very first time vis-à-vis the US if they put additional tariffs. Can you imagine that? This is crazy. I do regret that. But this is a consequence of just unpredictability and useless aggressivity. So what we have to do is to remain very calm, all of us. We have such an agenda with so many opportunities and so many challenges. So let's be focused on peace in Europe. Everybody should be focused to help the Ukrainians to have a sustainable peace. Level playing field and fixing the issues and these imbalances with China, because it's an issue for the Europeans and the Americans. And third, let's be focused on more competitiveness in Europe and this big acceleration, full stop.
The Greenland dispute has now turned openly hostile. US President Donald Trump has lashed out at France and President Emmanuel Macron, mocking him publicly and predicting his political fall as tensions over control of the Arctic island spiral into a full-blown transatlantic confrontation. Trump's response was blunt, personal, and punitive. Dismissing French resistance to America's Greenland push, the US president questioned Denmark's claim to the island and threatened massive tariffs on French exports if Paris refuses to comply.
Oh, did he say that? Well, yeah. Nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right. What I'll do is if they feel like Costo, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join. If he said that, you're probably giving it to me a little bit differently. But if he actually did say that, but as you know, he's going to be out of office in a few months.
France says that response confirms its worst fears. Paris now accuses Washington of abandoning diplomacy and crossing into coercion, using economic pressure and threats to force allies to accept America's claim over Greenland.
Regarding Greenland, the United States of America is crossing a new threshold of coercion. The President of the Republic is following the situation closely, as you know, and France takes any potential threats to Arctic security seriously. It is within this context that French military personnel are currently on site there. Furthermore, as you know, an extraordinary meeting of the European Council will be held on Thursday, with France, of course, participating, and discussions at all levels will take place this week, particularly within the framework of the Davos Forum.
France's stance is now hardened. Paris has moved beyond statements, backing Denmark and Greenland politically and militarily. French troops are already deployed to Greenland as part of a NATO-backed Arctic operation, signaling that Europe considers the island protected, sovereign, and off-limits to pressure. President Emmanuel Macron has elevated the crisis to a global warning, arguing that Greenland is not an isolated case, but part of a wider collapse of rules-based order, where power politics threatens smaller nations and allied sovereignty.
So, this is a vast subject, and frankly, it might seem completely naive and ironic to tell you that we're going to address international governance at a time when I'm telling you that there's utter chaos. The law of the strongest prevails, and every day people wonder if Greenland will be invaded, if Canada will be threatened with becoming the 51st state of the United States, or if Taiwan will be further encircled. Several of you mentioned this in our discussions this morning. I think, on the contrary, that this is the right time, and in fact, it might be the only time, and it might be the right time to truly reinvest in the United Nations.
What began as a territorial dispute has now become a test of alliance politics. For France, Greenland is about sovereignty and precedent. For Trump, it is leverage and dominance. As Europe rallies behind Denmark and Washington escalates, the Greenland crisis is rapidly becoming the most serious internal rupture NATO has faced in years.